Daf Yomi, Tractate Sanhedrin, page 48. A, top of the page with the word Mishamshin, Gambrinan. La Poke Egla Rufa Tihi Gufa Kedosha. We derive the halacha governing the accessories relating to a dead person. For example, a shroud, from the halacha governing the accessories used in idol worship. For example, the animal that is sacrificed to the idol. This is to the exclusion of a heifer whose neck is broken, which it is itself consecrated for the ceremony taking place in the valley and is not an accessory used in that ceremony. V'abaye, my time a lo gamar mi avodah zarah. Amar lach mide de orche mimide de orche gamrinan leapoke avodah zarah de lav orche. The Gemara asks an Abaye, what is the reason that he did not derive the halacha by way of a verbal analogy from the halacha governing accessories used in idol worship? The Gemara answers, Abaye could have said to you that we learned the halacha governing something that involves a proper way of conduct. In other words, burying the dead, from the halacha governing something that involves a proper way of conduct, meaning the right relating to the heifer whose neck is broken, as these are both mitzvot by Torah law. This is to the exclusion of objects of idol worship which do not involve a proper way of conduct. Siman. Kipa nafshe dachatziva b'kivre diatir me'avu b'chisa de'umana. The Gemara presents a mnemonic for the forthcoming series of attempted proofs concerning the dispute between Rava and Abaya. Scarf, monument that was hewed, pouch, and craftsman. Meisve kipa shehu tameh. Midras ve'unata nato untanato lesefer tahor min midras aval tameh maga midras ema netanato ucherachato. The Gemara raises an objection against Rava from a Braita discussing ritual impurity that is contracted by treading. If a scarf is ritually impure with impurity imparted by treading, for example, after a zav sat or lay down upon it, and its owner then designated it as a cover for a Torah scroll, it is pure of the more severe level of ritual impurity, that which is imparted by treading, even without immersion, because it is no longer an object intended to be lied on or sat upon, but it is still impure with the less severe ritual impurity, which is contracted by touching. It's tar from midras, but it's tameh from maga. Midras. But it is still pure with less severe, which is contracted by touching that which is treaded upon. This indicates that mere designation has halachic significance and validity. The Gemara rejects this argument. Say, the halacha should read as follows: the owner of the scarf designated it as a cover for a Torah scroll and wrapped it around the scroll so that there was not only designation but an action as well. Lama li natanato ukarachto divrei Rabbi Chisda. The Omer of Chisda, Hai Sudra de Azmane, Metzar be Tefillin, Metzar be Tefillin, אסור למצר בפשיטה הזמנה ולא בצר בצר ולא הזמנה share lemetzar בפשיטה. The Gemara asks, if there was an action, why do I need for the Braita to say that the owner designated it and wrapped it? Wouldn't wrapping alone have sufficed? The Gemara answers the Braita is in accordance with the opinion of Rav Chizda. As Rav Chizda says, with regard to this cloth, that one designated for the purpose of bundling phylacteries in it, if he already bundled phylacteries in it, then it is forbidden to bundle coins in it, as it was designated and used as an accessory of a sacred object. But if he merely designated it for that purpose, but did not yet bundle phylacteries in it, or if he bundled phylacteries in it but did not previously designate it for bundling phylacteries, then it is permitted to bundle coins in it. Consequently, in the case of the scarf, it was necessary both to designate it as a cover for the Torah scroll and to actually wrap it around the scroll. And according to Abaye, who said that designation is a significant matter, the halacha is as follows. If he designated the cloth for the purpose of bundling phylacteries in it, even if he did not bundle phylacteries in it, it is prohibited to bundle money in it. In a case where he already bundled phylacteries in it, if he designated the cloth for bundling phylacteries, yes, it is prohibited to bundle money in it, but if he did not designate it for bundling phylacteries, bundling money in the cloth is not prohibited. Tashima, coming here from Rasa, Nefesh Shabano Yishtin L'Shem Chai, Mutar Behana, Hosibo Dimos Echad L'Shem Meiz, Asur Behana, Hachabay Skinan, Dir Ma Be Meiz. The Gemara suggests coming here another proof from against Rava. With regard to a monument that was built as a memorial for the sake of an individual while he was alive, one is permitted to derive benefit from it, as it is like any other construction. But if a single row of stones was added to it for the sake of a corpse, one is prohibited from deriving benefit from it, apparently even before the deceased is buried there. This seems to indicate that mere designation is a significant matter. The Gemara answers, with what are we dealing here? We are dealing with a case where the corpse was placed under the monument so that it became forbidden not through mere designation, but by way of an action. Ihachi. Whoa. I'm going to have to do part 2 here. Also, Divosecha Shemesh. Ihachi here, wow, it's a big taf. Ihachi, my area Hosif, Kilo Hosif Nami Lo, Tzricha Afalgav de Fanye. Gemara asks, if so, why does the Braita the Gemara suggests coming here another proof against Rava with regard to a monument that was built as a memorial for the sake of an individual while he was alive. One is permitted to derive benefit from it, as it is like any other construction. But even a single row of stones was added to it for the sake of the corpse, one is prohibited from deriving benefit from it. Apparently, even before the deceased is buried there. This seems to indicate that mere designation is a significant matter. The Gemara answers with what are we dealing here? We are dealing with a case where the corpse was placed under the monument so that it became forbidden, not through mere designation, but by way of an action. Okay. Ihachi ma'ir Yehoshua ki lo hoisif nami lo tzricha afagav dipanye. The Gemara asks, if so, why does the Braita specifically mention that a row of stones was added if the deceased was buried under the garment of the monument? One should be prohibited from deriving benefit from it even when a row of stones was not added, as the entire monument has been used for the dead. The Gemara explains, no, it is necessary for the Braita to state that a row of stones was added in order to teach us that even if the corpse is later removed from the grave, the monument remains forbidden since it had been designated for a corpse. Amar from Bar Papa, Amar of Chizda. Im hayam makiro v'chorto muta. Rav from Bar Papa says, that Rav Chizda says, if the corpse is later removed from the grave, one organizes the row of stones that had been added to the monument in the dead man's honor. He may remove the row of stones and is permitted to derive benefit from the rest of the construction. Tashima choitziv kever aviv v'halach kaver v'kever acher harei zeh lo yikaver boy oy lomis hasam mishum kaver aviv. The Gemara suggests coming here yet another proof against from a Braita. If one hewed a grave for his deceased father in one place and then went and buried him in a different place, the son may never be buried in the grave that he had dug. This indicates that mere designation is a significant matter. The Gemara answers, there the son may not be buried in the grave that he had dug because that would detract from the honor that he must show his father, not because the designation is significant with regard to the status of a grave in general. Rabbi Shimon ben Omer af chotzev avanim le'aviv v'halach kavaro b'makom acher harei zeh lo yikaver behen olamid. The Gemara comments, so too it is reasonable that the son may not be buried in the grave that he had dug only because of the honor due to his father, as the latter clause of the same Braita teaches. Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel says, even if one hewed stones for his father's grave, and they went and buried him in a different place, the son himself may never be buried in a tomb constructed from those stones. Shapir. The Gemara explains, granted, if you say that the son may not be buried in the grave that he dug for his father because of the honor he must show his father, it is well understood why he can go also not be buried in the tomb constructed from the stones that he hewed for his father's grave. But if you say that it is because of designation, the son should be permitted to be buried in such a tomb. Is there anyone who would say that spinning yarn in order to weave it into cloth for shrouds is regarded as designating an item for a dead person, resulting in a prohibition against deriving benefit from the yarn? In such a case, there is certainly no prohibition, and the case of hewing stones for a tomb is analogous to a case of spinning yarn in order to weave it into cloth. Toshima kever chodosh. Toshima kever chodosh. 5 more minutes. I hope so. Toshma kever chodosh. Chodosh. Toshma kever chodosh. Okay. Let's try to get the whole thing. Mutar behana. Hitil boin nefil asr behana. Hitil in. Lo hitil lo. I'll do two parts. Hitil in lo hitil lo. The Gemara suggests come and hear a proof in support of Rava from a bride with regard to a fresh grave that was not designated for a particular individual. One is permitted to derive benefit from it, but even if a non-viable newborn that died was cast into it, one is prohibited from deriving benefit from the grave. It must be inferred from here that if a non-viable newborn was cast into the grave, yes, one is prohibited from deriving benefit from the grave, but if it was not cast into the grave, one is not prohibited from deriving benefit from the grave, indicating that mere designation is insignificant. And I think we're going to do these paragraphs. They're all going to be part of part 2 of 48a.